everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks and another match of Beyond All Reason, where today we're going to be taking a look at, I think I'm going to officially say, my favorite map of all time. I say that about a lot of the maps, but it's hard to say that Failed Negotiations isn't at the very least in the top 3 of my best of the best maps currently in the map pool. We play this one just about every time that I get a chance to. It's definitely one of my favorites. It's got navy lanes, it's got sea lanes, it's got water lanes, it's got boat lanes, it's got player lanes, it's got all sorts of different lanes. And it's a real treat. So, spawning as the blue team commander right up here on the front lines of the blue team, love to see it, it's gonna be Oliak. Oliak coming in at 19 open skill, and that gives you a sense of the range of the players that we're gonna be watching this game. Already, I immediately spot there's a little bit of a disparity right here. Yeah, 23 open skill right here for Mad Dog 411. Our red team leader spawning in the air position here. And going towards the water. Oh, is this? I think I know what this is. We might be going into... Yeah, it looks like we're going to be going into an amphibious air platform? Oh, well, okay. Things are a little different now, as Fishyman199 has decided to go into air, which means usually, okay, so typically this position would go into air, this position would go into boats right over here, and then they would grab these mexes in this pattern, and then they would fight forward like this. Instead, though, it's going to be Mad Dog 411 fighting around for these metal extractors and then down the southern side. Should be the same effective... Mostly. You do have less metal extractors, though. Interesting. It is an Armada air player going for a bomber, too. This is going to be quite strange. Very, very strange. Not so much the standard that we usually see, but sometimes you can discover new things that way, so I'm excited to see if maybe that's what we're going to find right here. Mad Dog sending out the construction ship to get set up and running. We have much more standard right here, I would say. Oh, okay, never mind. Wait a second. What's going on here? We've got strange spawns all over the place right here. Our defaults are thrown out the window as it looks like Cats has spawned up on this forward section, and it looks like Sergoten has spawned on the southern section here, leaving the entire air pad completely exposed. Well, I certainly hope that Nanomachines Sun manages, or Nanomachines 10 anyways, manages to claim these mexes and I guess have a fabulous economy. Yeah, you get the geothermal and you get the extra mexes from your air player being gone. We should see T2 by like the 6-minute mark at the very latest. And then T2 handed out to everybody. We're gonna have more than enough metal. We're gonna have double a regular economy's worth of metal. And there we go. Looks like the Purple Commander will indeed be investing in all that. Lovely stuff. Won't even mind seeing more constructors dedicated to this. Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 metal extractors. Get those constructors up and running on as many of those as possible. Oliak has some big shoes to fill here. Gonna have to... Oh, actually gonna claim the geothermal right here. Honestly, I don't even mind it, because if you have to cover this entire front line right here, it's definitely a lot. It's a lot of ground to keep track of, and so I don't mind seeing that player grab that geothermal there. And we do have a Resbot eating up... Oh, so this is a bit of a miscue right here from Babad, who's accidentally queued up all of the plants instead of all of the rocks. I think we mean to eat up the rocks. But instead, we're just eating up the energy from these ferns. That's quite funny. So you can see 1.32, but it's not going down. There we go. We are... Oh, well, maybe not. Okay. Yeah, I don't think Babad quite realizes exactly the mistake right there, but that's quite funny. Eating up all the ferns and leaving all the valuable rocks behind. Bomber coming across the map right here. What are we targeting? What are we targeting? There we go. Wind turbine's going to be one target. There we go. Down go the wind turbines. Nicely done. 6 wind turbines so far for the Stormbringer. Definitely well worth it. Oh, that's interesting. Only 2 kills on that Stormbringer. Odd. Geothermal, not quite built yet. This bomber's a little preemptive, but one bomber also does not shoot down a geothermal in a single volley. Anti-air tower set up right here by Uyap will manage to shoot down that bomber, and it will be deflected quite nicely. I appreciate that there was a scout plane sent forward with this. I really do. I think that probably helps a lot. But that bomber probably didn't get as much value as I think the Tan Commander was hoping for. Good old Fishyman199 trying to get some value out across the map, but I don't mind it whatsoever. Taking down metal extractors, taking down wind turbines. For an early bomber, that's about as good as you can hope to do. Sometimes you can get some really juicy connections on early game units as well. Some of the softer ones, pawns, grunts, ticks, rovers, rascals, incisors, blitzes, all those very light units with very thin armor plating. Those are the ones that you can expect to, yeah, do a little bit worse against the bombers. The bombers to do a little bit better against. But overall, a startling lack of aggression here. Yeah. I want to say that this midsection could have been well contested by basically the entire red team here. Yeah, we have full-blown production from the orange and red commander as opposed to the orange commander going straight into tech. The purple commander here going more into tech than units. Well, we do have some units on the front line. To be sure, there are quite a few pawns on the front line right here, but with this much economy, I really think the purple commander should just dedicate wholly to tech. We are going to see an air lab come up here as well. Yeah, that's one thing I am noticing as well. Because no air player spawned over here, it means the purple commander is going to be forced to transition into air. Now, one thing that this does grant you on this right-hand side is 2 commanders worth of APM to spend microing against this navy. So if Mad Dog 411 can't keep up with the pace of constant harassment, then this could be a huge advantage over here. But overall, all this metal should be going to 1 commander to make 1 big navy anyways. And right now, it's kind of just being spent all over the place by 2 different commanders. A lot of it's tied up in laboratories, too. We've got 620 worth of bot lab right here. Those bots are very useful for collecting all of the metal out of the rocks right here, and then also grabbing the metal extractors. But overall right now, the lack of aggression is startling, and the blue team, with basically no fight, has managed to claim the middle of the map. That's a massive strategic blunder from the red team, essentially saying that the blue team can capture as much of it as they want. Something that I definitely encourage if you're new to the game, getting used to scanning around the map in your F4 mode. If you hit F4, this is built into the base game now that it automatically highlights these reclaim zones. It'll show you a little number, and it shows you exactly how much metal is tied up in this little sector of resources right here. So definitely something I'd encourage you to do. Take a look around the map and figure out all about that, because especially on maps like this, there's little clusters of rocks that are about 200 to 300 metal apiece. Getting those under your control can mean that, well, not just a difference, but a massive difference between how your engagements line up with or without them. Killer run by over here is a bunch of green forces from Uyap. I missed it talking about non-aggression as Uyap proves me wrong and sends a bunch of pawns directly into the backline here. Well, I'll be. They find a single thug, hardly will it stand against this many pawns running forward though. Single LLT in base here to try and defend. Doing a decent job of blasting down some of those pawns over here. There's another LLT for defense as well. And it will thwart those pawns, at least from going any further into the brown base. I think with this many pawns, we probably could have dove on top of that, but not going to be the case right here for the lime green commander, who instead turns to the left and goes after Narmain, the Narmain 19, the maroon commander right here. Losing a lot of those pawns to the explosions from the wind turbines is a little bit unfortunate. With slightly better micro, you can actually kill those without taking any damage, but it is tricky, especially when you're trying to micro this while controlling things in the back. It's very high pressure, high intensity situation. A Banshee is out now to try and clean some of this up. Not the end of the world. Doing a decent job of shooting down those pawns. There we go. If they stand still, that Banshee gets a nice little connection, and eventually those are shut down. But not before they do a significant amount of damage here to the, at least the energy economy of Narmain. Shutting down tons of wind turbines and the solar panels, making it very difficult for the Maroon Commander to expand at this point. Doesn't matter. I mean, this middle section has been completely cleaned up. At this point, the blue team making about 20 metal or so more than the red team per second. Not a tremendous difference, but certainly a difference nonetheless. Massive army of dolphins at this point. Not sure if dolphins are going to be altogether too worth it. With those dolphins, yeah, with those dolphins actually being mass-produced right here, we're actually seeing a little bit of a divergence. We have the Elsaw and even a Corsair Destroyer all up on the front line right here for the red commander. Going up against those dolphins, it'll be no contest. Those will chew through dolphins easily. Dolphins have startlingly high DPS, but, well, the Elsaw's is better. Not to mention the Elsaw have quite a bit more range as well, so you can take better engagements with the Elsaw. You have a bit more flexibility. Shell Shockers and Wolverines going back and forth right here on the front lines right now between the yellow and the lavender commanders fighting against each other. Lightning turrets, pop-up lightning turrets, gonna hold the line. Couple of blitzes, yeah, trying to find an angle, but there really isn't one. The LLTs and the lightning turrets and all the rest of it are holding this quite nicely, but a lot of these units are AFK right now. Yeah, Shell Shockers trying to blast away at whatever they can over on the coastline. We have Rocketeers and Centurion moving forward. I don't mind that composition at all, actually. The Centurion with enough HP to push into LLTs, as we see right now, and also with enough damage that they can actually deal with T1 spam. But there's just so many units here, and indeed, it looks like that'll be the difference. As the blue team holds the line. All right, a gauntlet coming up right here for the Lavender Commander. Not going to say that name, but the Lavender Commander here setting up this gauntlet, helping build a gauntlet for Nano Machines 10. I actually don't mind that from the Purple Commander, who does, again, have so much economy that it makes a lot of sense to invest as much of that as you feel like into static defense on the front line. Usually that's a little bit wasteful, but in this certain situation, I think it's probably well worth it. There we go. Manages to get at least one kill. And it looks like we've got a couple more on the way, a couple of agitators and gauntlets and whatnot. And you can see this thing can actually fire out quite far. The red radius right there, not sure what the orange one is, but the red radius is what it can actually hit over here. Yeah. Able to fire out into the distance quite nicely there. Torpedoes fired out of submarines right here. Perfectly efficient, taking down these dolphins who have no anti-submarine capability. Just 2 Orca doing a whole bunch of damage over here. Lovely stuff. We've set up a massive porked up defensive setup over here for Kane, the green commander, who looks to be going into T2. Very early for a naval T2, but I suppose if you're not facing any contest from your opponent, you may as well. We have a couple of constructors working on tidal generators. I'd love to see 2 or 3 of these moved into the backline, build a bunch of titles back here, and then some E-converters. It's a very easy way to step up your naval economy, but it can slowly outscale your opponent. And eventually 1 or 2 good fights later, and you can find yourself in a really good position. And you know what? With the reclaim now going back to the Seafoam Green commander here, Sirgoken, this whole engagement with the Dolphins and the Destroyers and the Frigates and all that good stuff, it's not really going too far out of the hands right here of the blue commanders. Interesting. I'm gonna go ahead and kick up the speed right here as we watch this engagement on the front line. A couple of riot tanks getting engaged across the way. We do have a pop-up, or not a pop-up, we do have a radar jammer here for the yellow commander, Jassy 12. And that is keeping this area nice and clean. This gauntlet is just dump firing away onto the beachhead over there, just wasted APM. Always a little bit of a bummer whenever that happens, because obviously this thing can be dump fired in any direction, so there's no reason why it should be dump fired particularly in one direction or another. But another gauntlet falling under fire here as the shell shockers start to blast it away, and that's exactly the reason why so often those gauntlets can be a misinvestment. Suddenly you dump a couple thousand metal, a little over 1,000 metal, into a static defensive structure, and in a mere moment it's obliterated by just a couple of T1 units. Yeah, not even the same amount of metal worth of T1 units. Very unfortunate. The Orange Commander, oh, alright. Well, the Orange Commander taking over a base over here. Looks like the red team had a player leave the game. And it's going to mean that Chutarel, the Orange Commander, is now going to take over the entire base, the entire front line right here. Risky, because obviously that's a lot of pressure for one commander, but if you can manage all of it, there's certainly a massive opportunity here. T2 lab is up and running, but it's idle. We should see T2 constructors moving up and running right now. As quickly as possible, getting those T2 out is very, very important. Naval engagement over here on the right-hand side, as we see the hot pink and the red commanders both engaging. Yeah, those frigates doing massive damage against commanders. Basically against anything. Frigates trying to hold the line over here. One destroyer goes down. Mad Dog 411 though, with still a overwhelming presence on the seas. The frigates in the front with the destroyers in the back. An ideal situation right here. Although the AoE definitely hurts a little bit. T2 units moving to the front line here for the blue team. The red team with an overwhelming lack of aggression. A critical lack of aggression, I would say. I think any number of units marching forward, you can see the Rocketeers pushing forward over here. We do have Hounds up and running already. Yeah, the blue team, that's exactly what it is. The blue team has run away with the lack of aggression by just scaling an economy. Just everyone has gone for a scaled up economy right here. You can see Oliak already on T2 right now, pumping out bulls and getting an advanced fusion or an advanced geo up and running. Everybody's gone into a full-blown T2 economy because they haven't had any pressure from anybody in their lane. And it's a massive blunder from the red team. Allowing that to happen without eco-scaling properly themselves means suddenly we found ourselves in a really tricky situation now where the blue team is slowly but surely outscaling the red. If we don't see a drastic change of pace right here from the red team, then it's going to be lights out. A lot of the red commanders here unable to spend their metal. Sev Ranger, Fishy Man, Chutarel, and Mad Dog 411 all struggling to put their metal down. Whereas the blue team, a couple of players struggling to sell their metal or put their metal into units as well, but overall reinvesting it a little bit better. Destroyer Ball is building up to a certain scale here where now they can start to fire away at frigates and blast them down with 1 or 2 volleys. It's a dangerous point in the snowball where suddenly you can find yourself taking engagements really, really efficiently, just like this. You can see those, yeah, those assault frigate really don't stand a chance at this point. This many destroyers on the field, how many is that in total? 7 destroyers on the field seems like the perfect number for starting to get really aggressive because you can start to whittle down those frigates without actually having to suffer all too many repercussions. There are more frigates on the way up here, but I think switching into mass destroyer makes a lot of sense. Those frigates are nice for a sustained high-paced firepower, but certainly not ideal for when you're ready to start being really aggressive. Not to mention those destroyers, of course, have the depth charge launchers on them as well. Hounds doing what they do best and dismantling this T1 army with near perfect efficiency. Yep. One volley at a time, they take down a couple of these Rocketeers here, these aggravators. The death of this group of aggravators should signal the end times for the red team. Losing all of these T1 forces and none of these T2 going down. Yeah, not a single hound has died yet. Oh no. A complete lack of engagement right here from the Brown Commander, Sev Ranger. 0 open skill, 3 Chevron hero. As he is forced to watch his entire front line crumble into pieces at the hands of Armada's probably most prominent tool on the battlefield, the Hound. Now dismantling this battle, and what a slaughter. What an overt slaughter right here. The Orange Commander, I want to say, is failing his team in the most significant way here by getting this T2 economy up and running, but not producing T2 units to counter this. A spy bot, a whole bunch of sprinters, even welders to a degree, or just more hounds would not be the end of the world in order to try and shut this down. Another prominent way to counter this, of course, is just with aggression, just sending units forward, and there's so many units on the front line right here that the Orange Commander just isn't controlling. Obviously, the Orange Commander is partly a victim in this as well, as you can only do so much when somebody on your team leaves, but this is certainly a bad situation made a whole lot worse by just slightly more aggression, scaling into slightly better economy, scaling into an overarching win here for the blue team. The Red Navy has eventually crushed the opposition over here. Hot Pink Commanders and Hot Pink and Red Commanders working in tandem right here to eat up all these juicy ships. Yeah, a couple thousand, probably about 7,000 metal worth of boats lying in the ocean right there. All of that is going to be ripe for reclamation, and as soon as we eat that up, we could see a T2 transition. The Hounds are in the back line now. Oh no. 3 Hounds were all that were produced out of that T2 lab from the Orange Commander. Unfortunate here as the Orange Commander loses basically the entire base just by having a critical failure of map awareness right there. And suddenly, Sev Ranger's base is devastated. The eco lights up as well. The T2 constructor dies, and the Hounds still aren't done tearing apart this base over here. My goodness. Sirgakin trying very desperately to hold the line right here, but once you lose one naval fight, it's really hard to ever come back to it. Torpedo bombers now launching their missiles across and around in order to try and strike some of these heavier ships here. Already, though, they're firing on the economy right now of the Seafoam Green Commander. I mean, don't underestimate the torpedo bomber, though. Definitely powerful. Deadly when not paired with anti-air here. The air player for the red team has 4 fighters in the air, and they're busy right now. Submarines falling right here. Not sure entirely what to. Long-range torpedo launchers appear to be the answer. Mad Dog 411 need not fight this army anymore. All we need to do is invest in T2 and we're going to be splendid. A Hound has made it all the way across this. And all said and done, this is not a completely unrecoverable situation right here for Chateaureau, the Orange Commander. Certainly not a happy one, though. Commander has died on the front line here as well. My goodness. Not a good situation for the red team. The lack of aggression is really the killer here. We're making ticks despite having no way of sending them across the map. Here you go. Here's a big ball of ticks that's trying desperately to get over there and has no chance. No shot and no opportunity. Definitely a little bit of a misplay there from Uyap as well. The commander right here would be the premier target, taking out all of the anti-air in its explosion. These bombers, however, instead choosing to focus down some of the frigates. Little bit of a mistargeting right there, a little bit of a misrally. Not the end of the world, certainly, but there are little efficiencies like that that you can improve upon to drastically scale the quality of your gameplay. And I think this is probably the most idle units I've ever seen in a game of Beyond All Reason. These two teams refusing to engage with each other, both trying to find a good opportunity, and both failing to realize, rather, that there is opportunity abound for everybody. Aggression through this right-hand side would be prominent here. There's a T2 lab up and running, but most of the metal is being spent on economy. The Brown Commander not realizing that, and instead just keeping the units around, not producing units, not scaling the economy, not really doing much at all. Chaturel eventually got that T1 lab online, so we are going to start some res bots to try and pump out a whole bunch of resurrected T2 units. We could also get this geothermal back up and running. That would be a good idea as well. Bulls here actually trading quite fabulously against the frigates. All right. T1 versus T2. I suppose it's to be expected. Grunt's moving forward over here on the right-hand side. Simple Pants finally trying to get some aggression right here. Maybe the hope that his team needs, the realization that his team needs, that there's actually opportunities all over the place. There's plenty of room for it. Despite not getting too much damage done. Doing more so than anyone else on the match today. If there's one thing that I hope you walk away from this match thinking about, it's being a little bit more aggressive with your plays, with your units. Killing your enemy's units and using them to fund your own units, your own structures, your own economy, all that stuff. Yeah, tremendously more efficient than just trying to produce it out of your own economy alone. Red Subs have picked up quite a decent little navy over here. We've got some destroyers, we've got some Elsa, all sorts of good stuff. Probably enough to engage with this navy right here, but obviously the difference is that we're already up to T2, so we do have dreadnoughts coming out at this point. We have flagships coming, or anti-nuke ships coming out. We have all sorts of good stuff up and in the arms right now for our Armada commander on the seas for the red team. We just need to take advantage of this naval victory. I think pulling back at that moment was probably a misplay. I think maybe if we push forward right now and win the naval sea, then we can start to shell away with those missile boats. And I think that might be exactly the kind of advantage that the red team is looking for to come back into this. Dependent on reclaim, the blue team is miles ahead or just slightly ahead. Every mech you kill, though, contributes greatly. Arbiters firing away as well is always nice. Down go the LLTs, the HLTs. Thugs continuing to march forward. The riot tanks are actually a little scary still. Yeah, don't push into those riot tanks. Oh, no. Well, okay, riot tanks having a fabulous time dismantling that entire group. That was just the T1 trash leading the charge right there, but it would have been better as recycled material rather than just scrap fed into the grinder. Either way, though, Sheldon will finally back off and realize that it's probably not worth it to walk directly into the opponent's anti-swarm units. Pitbull coming up on the front line right here. Mr. Worldwide. And Uyap going into one fusion Marauder production. I appreciate that. I appreciate that Uyap is looking for endgame solutions here. It feels like this has been a game of the red team trying to defend themselves and the blue team leisurely scaling their economy up until eventually they can continue fighting on the fronts here. We have tons of bulls being pumped out by the blue commander here, eventually going into an advanced fusion reactor. I don't mind it, but I think you could probably be a little more efficient with this if you maybe dismantle the T2 and the T1 constructors and you reconstruct some of those bulls, or deconstruct, pardon me, some of those bulls over here. They're being used as coastal defense, which is interesting. I don't think I've ever seen that before, but it does seem like it's working pretty well. Yeah, they seem to trade out relatively well against the frigates. What's the range on one of these bad boys? 460 versus a range of 480? Yeah, it's pretty close. I would say those are basically on par with each other. Now, I wonder what the DPS is. DPS of 245 for a bull. DPS of a Cortex frigate is 120. Ah, okay, so the bull vastly outscales outcompetes the frigates there. Yeah, we've got a Lamprey up, or pardon me, a Moray up and running. I mean, as far as static defense goes, it's about as good as it gets. It'll get about 3 shots off before it's put down. Was it worth its 1,000 or so metal? Probably not. Certainly better than nothing. Only a single anti-air ship in here. You could certainly target it down with proper bombing. Yeah, we are trying to. You can see those torpedoes turning around and heading towards that anti-air ship, but being intercepted by the big fleet of frigates guarding all the entrances here. At the very least, the res subs are putting all this back together, which is quite nice. Actually, resurrecting a lot of this is really, really cool. It does mean that most of these boats are going to essentially be the opponent's boats. You have to sort of win the fight in order to be able to pull that off. But in certain situations, it can be very, very useful. Torpedo bombers, again, prioritizing everything except the commander here is such a strange decision-making. There we go. Commander finally goes down, takes down all the anti-air with it. I believe the anti-air ship has fallen here, so these torpedo bombers have all the free reign in the world in order to continue attacking. No reason for the Seafoam Green Commander to continue this aggression. And in fact, I would probably say the Seafoam Green Commander should probably just focus on reclaiming a lot of that and rebuilding their economy. Rocket Spider attack right here from Jassy 12. Love to see they were going for that. But on the other side of the map, it looks like Yuliop has decided to pull the trigger and sends the Marauder across. Just like that, the Marauder have taken down the left-hand side of Chaturel's new base over there. Rocket Spiders, trying to find value, but those flamethrower turrets doing a great job, as well as those Hornets, keeping those spiders at bay. And just like that, the blue team manages to deflect the attack right here of the red team and absorbs a major one without managing to deflect much of it at all over here on the left-hand side. Sev Ranger now in a whole lot of trouble. Not but an energy storage remains right now for the Brown Commander. Oh, nice D-gun, though. Cleaves apart a couple of those. Yeah, not bad. Manages to shut down most of those Marauder over there, actually. Pitbull turret's not bad either. Gunslinger's up and running here. Trying to engage against this army. Pitbull's blasting down the Marauder. At the end of the day, the defense is, well, it's well defended. It's defended enough anyways that the red team survives that attack. But with their economy in shambles, the blue team is pulling further and further ahead. Sharpshooters now outrunning on the front lines here. No energy to fire him, though, is a bummer. Chaturel not eco-scaling properly for two different players, or two different bases worth of production at that point. I do like their sharpshooters, though, because with 2 bases worth of production, you can probably spam those out at an unreasonable degree. Usually it's too cost inefficient to do that, but in certain situations, certain late game scenarios, it can be well worth it. A nuclear missile launcher is set up over here from Fishyman199, apparently heavily invested in setting up a missile launcher. Interesting. For an air player, a nuclear missile launcher feels a bit expensive. I want to say it feels like that's a very, very expensive investment that otherwise could just be a whole bunch more economy, or otherwise just a whole lot more airplanes up in the sky. 8,000 metal in order to build one of these missile launchers is cool. If you're a fan of the live streams, you will have seen today, as of recording this today, Hornet was showing us some of the new submarines that they've developed. He's been working on them for a while now, and wanted to finally showcase them. And spoiler warning, they're looking sick. They're looking downright intercontinental. That's all I'll say, though. Rattlesnakes on the... You'll have to go check out the VOD if you want to see them. I definitely got some fabulous use out of them. I will tell you that much. The Yellow Commander tapping out, and at this point, Mad Dog absorbing that base as well, is still controlling the sea over here. Why have we not crushed our naval opposition over here? No idea why this commander's been allowed to live. We've been on T2 for some good while. These Dreadnought battleships are extremely good at engaging against these forces from a long range. They can shell away at them with a brutal devastation, and there's no reason why that shouldn't have happened yet. Anti-nuke fires away over here, and it's one of the reasons why proper scouting is so important. Making sure that you're not just wasting the nukes directly onto somebody's base. T2 up and running over here as well. We do have missile boats firing away. It's kind of funny right now from the Pink Commander. Loads of T1 submarines. We've got 23 T1 submarines. Not the end of the world, but definitely a little bit strange. Anti-nuke ship available. Anti-nukes coming up all over the place. Everybody's seeing that nuclear missile and running for their lives. Not the incorrect response right now, but I think it's time that we skip ahead. Finally get back into some action. Razorbacks now engaging on this front line. Sharpshooter's actually finding an angle. Yeah, one of those sharpshooters at the very, or one of those Razorbacks, pardon me, at the very least goes down. The other one also in a lot of trouble. It will be blasted apart by the sharpshooters. Those sharpshooters dying on the front, though, were enough to prompt these bulls to move forward, if not only a tiny, tiny fraction of a little bit. Dreadnought's also engaging here against the bulls. Now that we're up to T2, I don't think those bulls are going to be nearly as efficient engaging against some of those boats. Mammoth blasting down the walls, despite the fact that they can tread right over them. Bulls have officially broken this front line, though. Fat Boy trying to shut them down, but not managing to before. Ooh, nice nukes right there. Beautiful nukes in the center of the map right there. A double nuke directly into the commander of the Lavender Commander. Means that the entire middle of the map is cleared out quite nicely right there, actually. Yeah, not bad whatsoever. Welders in mass available right here. No reason why those shouldn't be getting some serious value. The Recluse Spiders over here firing their whole volleys away as well. Oh, heavy bombers. Beautiful heavy bomber connections. Oh my goodness. Right on top of that Fat Boy and that big group of welders, blasting down so many of them. Down they go. Those lightning throwers in white. No fighters sent to protect those bombers, though, is an unfortunate reality. The Navy moving forward ever so slowly here. It's all submarines, though. All submarines is very interesting. Not a great way of dealing with all submarines here for the Green Commander. We have a couple of battleships. We have, pardon me, we have a single battleship and a single frigate. Yeah, I mean, the submarines are going to tear it to shreds. I don't mind it. I really don't. If you take just the right engagement at just the right place, submarines can out-damage basically any other naval unit. It's one of the reasons why they're so powerful. It does take a lot of lining up and a lot of precision, though. Rocket Spider's not terrible against bulls, just for the fact that bulls are relatively slow, but they are just barely fast enough when going perpendicular to the Rocket Spiders that they actually will be able to avoid them. Bulls, though, unable to go up this hillside right here, so we're going to need to switch into vehicles, or, pardon me, into bots of some sort. We've got T2 coming up and online right here. Another nuke is sent up in the air. Anti-nuke will fire up to intercept it. Away it flies. Torpedo bomber sent to the left-hand side. Again, no fighters here to protect. Is such an unfortunate misplay right there. These torpedo bombers should be getting basically infinite value, but because they were unescorted, yeah, it means that they were shot down relatively easily right there by those T2 planes. At the very least, the anti-air ship underneath everything was getting some value, but here we go. Here come the fighters, just way too late. As Fishyman 199 continues to launch those nukes across the map. The blue economy is miles beyond the red one at this point. Metal extractors never reclaimed right here. There's loads and loads of them that were never taken. The Orange Commander does appear to be, though. Yeah, trying to retake these mexes, which is quite nice. Trying to get anti-nukes out and running as well. Lots to manage all at the same time. The Green Commander has been extremely passive so far, and it's certainly been to their downfall. Yeah, at the very least, we're investing in economy in the backline. And we're investing in a Black Hydra. I was gonna say, how is there not some massive surplus of metal? It's because we've gone into a Black Hydra right away, which I think makes a lot of sense. Black Hydra is very, very powerful, very popular nowadays. Obviously, very good for blasting down things at long range. There is an Epoch up and running right here for the Red Commander. Quite an interesting ship as well. It has such a tremendous firing range. You can see it can fire out just miles into the distance. Accurate? No. But long range, yes. And very, very effective for instance, besieging bases that happen to be, I don't know, set up very close to the coastline. Now, why are we going into triple shield over here? For the life of me, I can't understand why Olyak is going for shields here instead of trying to protect the economy. Maybe unawares of this capital ship, but we should have seen it so far already. Nuke lands in the middle of the map. The anti-nuke not built yet. It's up and coming, but it's not quite there yet. Razorbacks ready to engage over here on the right-hand side. Enough Razorbacks to melt down every opposition over here. Those T1 units obviously not standing a chance, but even the T2 will melt pretty quickly under the sustained firepower of the Razorback here. Chateauroux trying to move in for a D-gun. Oh, Razorbacks in such a big cluster. Beautiful D-gun right there from the Orange Commander. Lovely stuff right there. Thousands and thousands of metal down the drain immediately right there for Uyap. Unfortunate miscommand right there, mismanagement of those units right there from Uyap means that thousands of metal T3 units are destroyed in an instant. Very, very nicely done. Oh man, units getting engaged over here. Capital ship shelling away, but the Epoch's main guns, its main triple barrage cannons, not firing right now. It's just its two long-range cannons that are firing. And at that, it's even just one of the barrage cannons because it can't shoot through itself. Oh no. Well, I'll be. Despite an overwhelming loss right there, the Seafoam Green Commander was allotted way more time than should have been available in order to rebuild, and just like that, swept through basically the entire navy of the Red Commander. Now, it's worth noting there is 2 Epochs up and running on the field. But they stand no chance against the torpedo bombers, sure. Oh, well, torpedo bombers need to be microed a little more carefully, though. Deploying most of their bombs out on land, not ideal, not efficient. There we go. This payload much more convincing. Just like that, about 20 maybe 30% knocked off of the HP pool right there of the flagship, the Epoch flagship. Yeah, gunship's getting engaged here now as well. Very nicely done. Nuclear missile intercepted right there. And the res subs are coming in to reclaim all that juicy, juicy wreckage. We're going to start up an epoch of our own right here for Cirque again. Who is, you know what, managed to claw themselves back into this quite nicely. Well, be. The one leading edge that the red team had forfeit because of a lack of composition right there. Torpedo spewers. Oh, these are advanced torpedo spewers as well. Those are nearly 10,000 metal worth of advanced torpedo launchers. Going to be very capable of dealing with a lot of this stuff. T1 submarine, sure, but dreadnoughts as well. Hard to say exactly how much damage each one of those torpedoes does to these battleships here. But suffice it to say, it's ridiculous. I think it's about 9%. It looks like it's about 9% per shot. The retargeting also meaning that they're extremely accurate, and that entire push is held. Nicely done right here for the Green Commander. Holding that push was critical. Res subs continuing to eat up this entire wreckage right now. We have, oh, we do have a submarine under here. I was wondering what was firing away over there. We have a poison arrow heavy amphibious tank for some reason under the seas. And that submarine is dismantling it. Seafoam Green Commander floating loads of metal. I think it's time we invest in another epoch. We probably want to just go for one more. Putting them out on the field is going to be better for you than leaving that metal in your bank. There we go. We do start up another epoch. Nicely done by Cirque again. Sorgo can. Both teams settling into that non-aggression once more. The blue team at this point with nearly 60,000 energy production and nearly 1,000 metal production. The blue team with about 30,000 energy production and 500 metal. Quick maths tells me that it's about double the economy for the blue team, and most of that is probably coming from metal extractors. I mean, you can imagine each of these T2 metal extractors producing 7.3 metal per second, and there's 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21-ish metal extractors. 21 times, what was it, 7.3, something like that? Well, you can do the math and let me know, but I'll tell you right now, my gut instinct is telling me that's a lot of wasted potential. Epochs have a strange sort of functionality to them where they're essentially way, way better when they're facing forward. On the retreat, they can use quite literally one of their guns. Sometimes two or maybe three if they're lucky. But this flagship would be vastly more effective if it would simply turn to the right a little bit. The smaller guns on the side don't fire at nearly the same range. They're much closer up. There you go. You can see them firing here now. But they do contribute heavily to the DPS. Ooh, nuke lands over here. Not bad. There you go. You can see whittling down those boats much more efficiently from the front, where both of their long-range cannons can connect. Heavy tanks pushing into the bases over here. Loads of bots moving up this ramp right now. Tons of Shiva, plenty of Arbiter, a couple of Sheldon. Well, there's no Arbiter in here, actually. I thought there was some Arbiter in that. Not the case right here. As Babad finally pulls the trigger on one of the red bases over on the high ground right here. The blue team taking a long time to finish out this game, enjoying their leisurely victory, but overwhelming the opponent and their lack of aggression. Yeah, the red team had every opportunity to be aggressive on the map, and they just chose to invest in defense as well, and every single time, and beyond all reason, this is exactly what will end up happening. Important to recognize that, especially in these lower level learners games, because the earlier you learn not to depend on static defense, the earlier you're going to be able to scale that OS up into the moon. Thanks a ton for watching, everybody. I sure hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everyone.